What's going on, everyone? We got a few things to talk about today, specifically the casting news of Brainiac. I know, it's been a few days, like a week since this announcement, but hey, it was Christmas, and I decided to take the week and spend it with my family, just doing things with them. So, I hope you can forgive me, but let's get into it. Let's talk about Brainiac, as well as some big information, how, look, Superman keeps winning. Superman keeps getting the accolades that it deserves of being the best movie, whether it's the superhero movie of the year or what have you, it keeps winning. So let's talk about those two stories today. So let's get into it. So first up, we got our Brainiac. That's right. Look, I discussed it. We discussed it ad nauseum, it seems like, for weeks and weeks about when this information was going to drop. And it just so happens that my last live show of the Watchtower, the next day it happens. So just a week ago, James Gunn confirms that Brainiac from Man of Tomorrow will be played by a man named Lars Eidinger. Now, I could be saying his name wrong. I'm not great with names. You guys all know that. But that is not really the story that I think a lot of people should be taking from this. There's a lot of people who are like, oh, it's a no name. Oh, no name. Like, first off, guys, look. That's what James Gunn does. James Gunn isn't this person who goes out and hires these big names for roles. That's not what he does. He always hires the best person for the role, for the job. That is what he does. It's how he works. It's how he's always worked. And honestly, I don't know this Lars at all. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say, guys, this is the greatest casting of all time. Don't worry, this is going to be amazing. I'm not going to do that because, honestly, I don't know. But what I will tell you is, I trust James Gunn. He has never let me down with a casting. Not that I can think of. Not that I can really sit here and say, man, that casting was absolutely horrendous and trash. He's never done that. Especially, look at Corn Sweat. Fantastic as Superman. Brosnahan, fantastic as Lois. We can go as far back as to his Guardians of the Galaxy films and seeing what he did there. Look, Chris Pratt, he was an up-and-comer. He wasn't a big name in Hollywood at the time. And he was fantastic casting. Most likely his biggest name, his biggest get in Guardians of the Galaxy, not voice actor-wise, was Zoe Saldana. But even then, she wasn't huge at the time. Sure, she did the Avatar movie, and she was in Star Trek, but she wasn't a household name. So to sit here and say, like, he's going and getting these nobodies, come on. This is ridiculous. Oh, they don't have any money to get big names. No, that's not what it is. Now, did he look at other names like Matt Smith and what were the other ones? I can't remember the other names, but did he look at those other names? Maybe. I know what he said on social media that I don't think they even auditioned. We know what he says. He says he doesn't like to put out rumors about things. First off, this is the guy. So why even entertain the possibility that there were other named actors, specifically big named actors, who could have gotten the role? Like, that's ridiculous. He wants the focus and the idea to be about Lars, as he should. So the idea that he's sitting there saying, look, I don't even know if they did. He's not doing that to throw shade at them. He's not doing that to throw shade at anybody who maybe, leaked that information. He wants the focus on Lars, as it should be. People need to just shut the hell up about this stuff. Like, it's getting annoying to a certain point where James Gunn lies. James Gunn doesn't know what he's doing. No, he knows exactly what he's doing. He wants the excitement, the speculation, the story to be about this guy. Okay? But is the story really this guy? I don't think it is. I think the story really is that it's the confirmation of Brainiac. Because people are like, they needed a big name to get people excited about this. I've seen people sit there and say, why did they have to announce somebody like this? Like, this was an earth-shaking. No, it wasn't meant to be earth-shaking. The announcement of the actor wasn't supposed to be what was earth-shaking. The announcement of Brainiac officially being in a big motion picture, like, that's the earth-shaking news. This is why I sit here and say all the time that scoopers or these grifters or these con men or these people that love to leak stuff are a detriment, are just terrible for the pop culture fandom. Because imagine, just think for a second, step back for a moment and think about this. Think if we did not know for a fact that Brainiac was the villain of this movie. How great this announcement would have been. Well, Slav, James Gunn, hinted to it. You're right, he did. He hinted to it. It's no different than what other directors in this medium have done in the past. Other directors, other filmmakers have alluded to things in the past for their upcoming projects. They hint and they allude to things, and people get excited and they start to theorize, and then once the announcement comes, they get even more excited. Why is it so different here? Well, partially it's because of the con men that are around it, the ridiculousness that all this negativity is around James Gunn right now. And that's the problem. Why is there so much negativity around James Gunn? There shouldn't be. There should not be any negativity around James Gunn. And that's a problem. That's a problem. He's building a universe. He made a damn good Superman movie. He made a solid season of Peacemaker. Look, I'm not going to say it's the best season. Like, the first season of Peacemaker is absolutely better. Second season was a lot of fun. The final episode, I say this all the time, it left a lot to be desired, but we understand what he's doing. You know, Creature Commandos, excellent show. He's building a universe. He is building a universe. But this negativity, this look at James Gunn as being some, like, evil when it comes to DC is absurd. It is absolutely absurd. And it's these con men, it's these grifters, it's these storytellers that want to come at him and cause this negativity all around him. So when this story like this comes out, it's all negative. And people then are like, oh, well, nobody else is excited, so why should I be excited? No, there is a level of excitement here that we all should be excited about. It's that Brainiac is here. Brainiac is coming to the DCU. Brainiac will be in a live-action movie. That's what is exciting. That is a huge story. Like, that, to me, is fantastic. You know, Gunn made the announcement last Saturday. He said, in our worldwide search for Brainiac and Man of Tomorrow, Lars Eidinger rose to the top. Welcome to the DCU, Lars. In our worldwide search for Brainiac. That there is stating, like, this was a huge search for Brainiac. Like, we understood, we know how big of a deal this is. Lars is the one who rose to the top. He's the one that rose to the top. So what is Brainiac going to be like? That's another big question. Like, what is he going to be like? Because honestly, when you sit down and think about it, it's kind of like, well, there's multiple versions of Brainiac. There's animated, there's comic, there's been some on TV, there's a bunch of different versions. Well, James Gunn says, when asked, he says, I love aspects of many versions of the characters. From the 1950s Bender stuff to the surprisingly scary Wolfman stuff to the animated versions and up through the truly creepy and wonderful current absolute Brainiac. So that doesn't really tell us what we're getting. My favorite that I really enjoy is the Bender stuff. Personally, I think Bender is really cool. I mean, he's pretty much the original. He's kind of the one that really solidified his ultra intelligence and this sci-fi aspect of who Brainiac is. So for me, that's where I hope James Gunn kind of leans into, but that's not to say he's not going to take inspirations from other aspects of it. So for me, I hope he leans into the Bender stuff, but I can see him leaning into others as well. I'm all for it. Like, for me, I love the idea that we're finally getting Brainiac. I think a lot of people need to sit back and realize, like, guys, we've all been wanting Brainiac for decades. Decades we've wanted Brainiac on the big screen, and we're finally getting him. So why not rejoice? Why not get excited? Why not sit there and say, let's start to theorize. Let's start to try and figure out, where is this story going? What is this going to lead to? And why is this so important? That's the fun. That is the fun. All right. Moving on to the next thing I want to talk about. It is this. The Wrap. Basically, look, we know The Wrap loves to talk about the negative of DC. Over quite some time, they've talked about the negative DC. But they definitely shocked me here. They released an article the day after Christmas saying how DC finally beat Marvel at the box office. It says Superman's $616 million global haul makes it 2025's top superhero movie, outpacing Marvel's best at $521 million and gives DC its first box office win over Marvel since 2008. This coming from Humberto Gonzalez. Look, this guy, I remember the Snyder Bros. They hated Humberto. They hated Humberto during the big Snyder Cut movement and everything going on. And they absolutely hated Humberto because he was very negative and against a lot of that fandom. So it's funny to see how The Wrap and Humberto have kind of like, look, DC they're winning. They are winning right now. So let's kind of take a look here what they're saying, because it is very interesting. It says all it took was the Man of Steel and a little color. I think it's funny, but it's not. Look, you guys know I love Man of Steel, but this movie Superman is very colorful compared to Man of Steel. So it says, for the first time in years, DC has something to celebrate when it comes to their film franchise, as Superman grossed over $616 million worldwide, making it the highest grossing superhero film of 2025, and, crucially, outgrossing every single Marvel release. It's the first time this has happened since 2008, when The Dark Knight grossed over $1 billion worldwide. Marvel released 3 superhero movies this year: Captain America Brave New World, Thunderbolt, and Fantastic Four First Steps, and none reached Superman's box office haul, with the Fantastic Four First Steps serving as its highest grosser at just $521 million. It's a stunning reversal of fortune for the MCU, which was churning out $700 million to $1 billion grossing hits in the lead up to Avengers Endgame. I love how this paints that, because it is very true. I've talked about this so much when everybody always sits there and says, well, Superman didn't make 670. Well, no shit, it didn't make 670, because no superhero movie is making 670 right now. On average, no movie is making 670. Well, Deadpool and Wolverine made over $1 billion. There are outliers. There's always exceptions to the rule, okay? Deadpool and Wolverine was 10 years in the making. That was an Avengers-level event film. Those types of films make that kind of money. But let's keep moving. And the disappointing performance opened a window when DC needed it most, as Superman served as the launching pad for an entire new vision for the franchise after it collapsed after its collapse in 2023 when all 4 of its releases, Shazam and Aquaman sequels, The Flash and Blue Beetle, disappointed at the box office. It also came amid broader concerns about the lasting appeal of comic book movies, which remain a question overseas. Again, everybody loves to complain about Superman and how it failed internationally. It's not just Superman. The genre as a whole is struggling overseas. Interesting, right? It's not just Superman. Oh, but Man of Steel made blah, 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 blah overseas. Okay, that was 2013. All superhero films are struggling overseas. Moving on. Safran and Gunn, the dynamic duo running DC Studios, delivered with Superman and now have a slate of projects lined up through 2027, including Supergirl, Clayface, sequels to Superman and The Batman, and HBO series Lanterns, all while Netflix is set to acquire Warner Brothers for $82.7 billion, with Lightshed analysts calling DC Studios the single greatest opportunity in the deal. Superman generated more than $100 million in profit for Warner Brothers, though theatrical revenue, streaming, and merchandise, according to an insider. But the bigger accomplishment may be what Safran and Gunn have done behind the scenes, uniting DC's historically fractured publishing, film, gaming, and consumer product divisions for the first time. Gunn and Safran went into this knowing they can't retread the same ground over and over again. Fandango's movie analytics director Sean Robbins told The Wrap of the revamp, but they also knew they had to connect with today's younger audience and get younger generations and even some of the older generations off the couch and out to the theater to see the 10th Superman movie. That was a big challenge for them. Okay, so in a nutshell, this is just pumping up how successful Superman actually was. Okay? And it was a huge success. I've been saying it since the movie came out. It was success after success after success. Many outlets, many pundits, many people are recognizing it. It's a success. Why there's certain people out there that don't want to recognize it is beyond me. I don't get it. I don't see why people don't understand it, but I see it. And so do many others. But here's this guy here on my post. It says, crazy it only made $95 million more than Fantastic Four, and you act like it's a huge win. Superman is literally an icon and the title of the movie. It should have made well over $700 million. This was the last year DC beats the MCU. Gunn chose the next projects poorly and it will cost him his job. There's no fortune telling here. Like, we can't sit here and determine and guess what's going to happen with Supergirl, Clayface, and the next upcoming projects Man of Tomorrow and such. I believe Supergirl's going to do just fine. I've said, look, my official prediction at its box office, I don't have yet, but I think it's going to do similar numbers to what Superman did. Clayface, I think, is going to do fantastic. It's that horror movie. Look, horror is huge right now, and if they market it well, which Warner Brothers typically does with their horror films, it's going to do fantastic. So I have no doubt in my mind that Clayface is going to be a huge win for him. And then Man of Tomorrow will do fine because it's going to build off Superman, so on and so forth. So I have no fear for the movies that are coming out. The TV shows, again, I think they're going to be just fine as well. So when you sit here and you try to think like, oh, fortune telling and what's going to happen with the future, first off, you're just saying this, Matt, because you want to try and sound smart and try and sound like you know what you're talking about, but you really don't. Next up, you sit there and say, it only made $95 million more than Fantastic Four, and you act like it's a huge win. Well, yeah, because it is a huge win. Again, the article states it. So I don't know if you read the article, and a lot of people don't. A lot of people will just see this here and say, oh, geez, they're just talking up Superman. They don't even know what they're talking about. It didn't do well. Well, read the article, because it explains in the article. Same thing that I've been doing. Head over to my website. Again, I've pulled this up multiple times here. Statistica.com. You can find this there. This isn't my chart. This is a third-party chart. You can find it. This is the average box office revenue of superhero movies worldwide. This isn't just domestic. This is average worldwide from 2000 to 2024. Okay? So we see the ups and downs that have gone on over the years. But let's specifically start at 2012. All right? 2012 was a big year. You had The Dark Knight Rises and you had Avengers. A huge year for comic book movies right there. So obviously, more than $1 billion was a big year. 2013, there was a dip. It was at $600 million. But there was a steady incline. Yeah, up. It dropped a little bit, but up. A little bit, up. So it was a nice incline all the way up. Till when? When is this? Oh, look at that. 2019. In 2019, it once again hit $1.1 billion average. Guys, this is average. This isn't your every single movie is making this month, this year. This is average. Average, okay? So on average, this is how much superhero films were making. Obviously, 2020, throw that out the door. Even 2021, you can kind of throw out the door, but 2021 saw a decent bump back up to $630 million. And then 2022 saw a nice little bump, probably around like 640, 650, something like that. But what happened then? What happened? Because in 2023, dropped down to $393 million. That was the average, guys. That's the average for superhero films. A massive drop, a massive dip. Now, granted, there was no DC films that year. That hurts. But, maybe the Joker. But, was that 2023? I can't remember. But, yeah, I mean, that was a massive drop. And then, 2024, 453. So, you see where the trend is at for superhero films at that time. Let's not forget that over the last 10 to 15 years, all right, ticket sales are down nearly 40%. 40%. 40%. They are down 40%. All right? So, when you take that stuff into account, you take that into account. $616 million when the average just a year ago was $450 million. That's a big win. That is a huge win. Absolutely huge win. But Slav, it didn't make 670. That was not the goal. Do you realize that the industry knows and understands how to work this stuff out? Warner Brothers, DC Studios, they understand that. Okay, look at the industry right now. Okay, let's take a look at the industry. We see that superhero films are making $600 million, $500 million, $400 million. That's what we see. We need to do better than that. That's what we need to do better than. So what is our goal? So they have an internal goal. Internally, they have a goal of what they need to hit. Yes, it needs to make more money than what it costs to produce and so on and so forth, but they have an internal goal. I can tell you that their internal goal wasn't, it needs to make what Man of Steel made. No, that's your goal. That was your goal that you thought, oh, it needs to make that amount of money because that's the only way it makes sense to reboot it. No, that's not how it works, guys. It's not how it works. You want to tell yourself that's how it works, but that's not how it works. It works based off of what is going on in the industry at that time. How ticket sales are at that time. How the industry looks at that time. What's going on in movie theaters. What's going on with all of that. That is what matters to Hollywood, to the studios, to what is going on. That is what matters. Not what happened 15 years ago. So, was this a huge win? Absolutely. And I'm sure they're very happy that they outpaced Marvel. Absolutely. And I'm not going to say that Marvel didn't have a big win this year also, because they did. Their movie also outgrossed what the average was from a year ago, which is fantastic. That's a good thing. That means maybe the superhero films are back on the rise. Maybe not. We have to see. We have to continue and see if this trend continues. So that's something we're going to have to keep an eye on. But as of right now, you can't sit there and say it wasn't a win. You just can't say it wasn't. I will say, he continues. He says, "You think you're wrong about? I think you're wrong about a foundation, because I said this is a strong foundation to build off of, because it is. You have a strong foundation. Great critic scores, great audience scores. People went and saw it. It's a great foundation to build off of." He says there was just curiosity because it was a new Superman movie. He says it dragged it over 600 million. And I think that's it. All right. You could say that it was just dragged over 600 million. And had that been the case, had it just been dragged over 600 million, you would not see the numbers that it then had on streaming, had on digital, had after it left the theaters. You would not have seen those numbers, which were big numbers, which were record-breaking numbers. But we did. We saw that as well. We saw that happen also. He says, "I don't see anything else doing those numbers. It's just a boring slate. 2026 will be duds. Those films were chosen poorly." But again, now he does have what appears to be an MCU little image there, so maybe he's just an MCU fanboy. I don't know. Regardless, it was a huge win for Superman yet again. It's exciting to see this kind of stuff, but you have to sit back. Look, I know that the movie is not perfect. I know it's not a perfect movie. I see many issues with it. I know there's some of you out there who think it is a phenomenal movie, and that's great. But it's not a perfect movie. But it finished fantastically. It has a great lasting appeal. People still talk about it today. People are still talking about it. It's going to continue on, and people are excited. So I'd love to hear your thoughts about all this. What do you think about the Brainiac news, Lars Eidinger, about Brainiac being confirmed? What do you think about the Superman winning and being the best superhero movie, box office-wise, of the year? Love to hear your thoughts about all of that in the comments below. And this was a long video, I know, but I had to do it. I had to do a long video because I haven't been here for a week. So let me know your thoughts. Love to hear what you have to say in the comments below. And with all that said, guys, I'll catch you all later.